All right. I wanted to. This is more of kind of like my view of things. I think that both the right and the left have compared the United States to potential, like, Weimar Germany. Oh, the U.S. is like Weimar Germany. Oh, and it's completely different in my opinion. I've said this for years, and I just wanted to make sure of this because I think that it's more realistic to say, if you want to make any comparison, historically speaking, I would compare the United States right now to just before the collapse of the Qing dynasty in China. Why do I say that? Well, because I think the Qing dynasty was ruled by, basically very, by a child king of Puyi, and overall was just kind of a country that was lackadaisical. You know, they did have victories, this and that, and they were able to have that sort of thing, but they were conquered in many ways. The Americans, Russians, Germans all owned huge stakes in China. You think of, different cities that were controlled, or Qingdao, for example. Qingdao, well known for its beer, still to this day. It was a German colony. And you see similar in the United States. The Chinese own vast, tracts of land in the United States. They own plenty of housing. The Saudis are taking resources away from the United States, this and that. I think it's very important to say is that, this country has already been sold out. And I think it's a more apt description to compare the United States to China in that way. Now, of course, it took a while, and I think that, obviously the Chinese Civil War, much more complex situation than I think I could explain, but just the post-Qing dynasty, from 1911 up through 1949, a lot of great, I don't say that in any positive way, but I say it in just sort of comparison ways, a lot of better similarities in the United States, particularly in the sense of, various warlords ruling over, northern, specifically northern China and southern China as well, but of course, southern China was a very different type of thing, and, obviously on the coast, very different type of thing. You had like the Green Gang, Big Ear Du Yusheng, I believe, Du Yusheng, um, leading the Green Gang. And, you had the rise of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, the difference is that, realistically, the Chinese Communist Party got support from Russia, or specifically from the Soviet Union, sorry, and were able to, really have a disciplined force. Let's be honest. I mean, I'm doing this in all honest way. The difference is that in the United States, Gommies and progressives and anarchists and all these other edgy folks who think that they're going to, dab on the chuds and whatnot, they ultimately support the system, to a point. They ultimately do, because they're like, the system is kind of giving us what we want, which is getting rid of the fascists. That's why they support the FBI, at least in their minds anyway. They think that they're getting rid of the fascists. They're going to get rid of you too. But, I think that there are comparisons to be made, and it's not a perfect one-to-one comparison. Absolutely not. There's plenty. It's not even a Venn diagram. It's just two completely different circles, or maybe just like a little sliver of connection. But anyway, you could also talk about the fact that, basically it became two groups, primarily. You had the Kuomintang, and you had the Chinese Communist Party. And I think that's what's going to occur in the United States eventually. There's going to be an era of warlords and whatnot, but I think that eventually there's going to be a culmination, and there's basically going to be okay, let's make truces and you agree to join us. And there's going to be murders and everything else like that, assassinations, etc. And groups will just fold into one another, and they will become coalitions, and they will eventually become groups, right? And so we're going to see what's going to happen with that. I think, like I said, I really don't think, and maybe this is somewhat of my American chauvinism showing through, but I don't think the United States will stay broken apart. I don't think it will, because I don't think that any American will want to deal with that. As much as, the so-called blue states hate the red states or whatever, is that, they need one another. So I don't fully believe that balkanization or whatever is going to last forever. I think I've always believed this, but I do think it's true, is that eventually the United States, will break apart, but it will eventually find there will be some force that will unite it again. But it's going to use some American aesthetics and give lip service somewhat to George Washington and stuff like that, but ultimately will go completely against that. And I think that's what's going to occur. That's my attitude towards it, really. I think I've explained this before, and this feels somewhat forced. I don't know if I wanted to make a video about this, but I figured why not, so I will. It's just, that's where I feel about the United States, generally speaking. I think that, the situation is going to get worse. I mean, people are still talking about the potential of the strike. I mean, I've heard that the strike has been canceled for the railroad strike and all this. Don't know. Similar to the UPS strike, people are like, nah, we don't know. There's a lot of back and forth, wangling around. And we're going to see what's going to occur, won't we? We're going to see what's going to occur. Same thing with the midterms, right? I will observe from a distance, and will probably listen to commentators who will get it third or fourth hand, but honestly, that's probably the better way. I'm not going to listen to any of these folks who do political polls or any of these other spurs, because ultimately, they still believe in the idea of Democrat, Republican is the true way to go. And it's like, to me, I don't really care. I think Dems and Republicans both are just kind of coasting by because of boomers. I think basically millennials, depending. Millennials and Zoomers don't give a shit about Democrats or Republicans, broadly speaking. I think that, so-called left-wing folks who are Zoomers broadly give lip service to Democrats, not because they like Democrats, but they think they can use them to their own ends, much the same way as, far right, or, I'm sorry, I'm using language of, everybody else, but right-wing Zoomers or whatever, or millennials, will support the Republican Party, not because they think that they are, actually conservative, or that they actually believe in what they say, but they can use them to get basic stuff, such as getting rid of abortion laws. I mean, that's really my attitude towards it. I think that, there are plenty of parties that will never get any recognition in the United States. We're never going to be like a Europe, in my opinion. It's going to occur even after a revolution. The whole two-sided duopoly, or whatever, the fake duopoly that we have, will definitely still exist. But these are just my broad strokes, really. I think that's all I really have. I'm sorry if that's kind of low energy and whatnot. I do feel like somewhat I forced this out, but I'm reiterating points that I've said in many, many videos, so I feel like that's my attitude. Ultimately, when you reach my age and you become older, you don't really care about Democrat or Republican or, you know, what this group or that group's going to do. You're just kind of like, do something, you know. It's like, if it's going to pop off, just do something so I can do it with while I'm still somewhat young and just ready to just get it done with, you know. And maybe it's a bit Fed post, but that's honestly how I feel. It's like, if it's going to get bad, just let it get bad. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. See you later. A goodbye.